Welcome to Talk Theory. It's your host, Kiara Barnes, where I talk all things life, what makes us human, and what makes us superhuman. Sit back, relax, and join me for a chat. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Talk Theory. Thank you for listening, of course. Thank you. And thanks for coming back for another episode where we do a lot of deep dives on a lot of things. Self-exploration, relationships, all things. So today, folks, I don't really have any updates for you as of now. So I'm just going to get straight into it. I had some breakthrough moments really this week, and really just looking forward to sharing with y'all what I ended up finding out. We are talking about self-concept today. I feel like this has been getting talked about and been popular in the self-help space for a while. So yeah, let's give it a little chitty chat today. First off, let's kind of unmask this whole self-concept. You know, like, what is it? Why does it matter? What's the deal? So self-concept is how you view yourself, which is ultimately how you view the world around you and how you interact with those around you, and how likely you are to extend yourself when it comes to, you know, like new experiences and opportunities. It really does have a pretty big impact on many areas of our lives. So, you know, all of these things, how you view yourself and all that, can also include, you know, our thoughts and our preferences and habits and hobbies and skills and even specific areas of weakness, because of course we all have weaknesses or areas we know we could use a little improving. And, you know, obviously, like I was saying a little before, depending on how we view each of these subjects influences our firsthand experiences in real life with each of them. And the good news about this is that all these beliefs or feelings towards these things can change. You know, they're not permanent, which is really, really good, because that means that we are growing and we are learning, we are evolving. You know, no one wants to be in the same headspace that they were when they were 14. I know I don't. Or 18 or 21 or even like 2 years ago or even a year ago or a few months ago. You know, you always want to grow as you experience new things. And you want to understand and process so that you know yourself better, you know, than before. And that's really the goal, is to have this overall sense of knowing when it comes to who you are and perhaps even where you're going. So self-concept often takes root in our earlier experiences, right? So that's your childhood, possibly. Family dynamics, societal influences. All of these things are outside sources that influence and even lay the beginning foundation of how we perceive ourselves and live our lives. And if you're going through, you know, routine each day over and over again, and never actually sitting with yourself and checking in, doing things like even really simple, right? To do these mini check-ins. It could be like taking yourself out on a walk, you know, going to the movie alone, going to a restaurant alone. And I've talked about this before. I can't remember what episode it was on, after I was going through a breakup, and for the first time I was spending so much time alone, and how important it is to be getting to know yourself and observing yourself. Because the more that you do that, the more awareness that you gain. And those things, that used to influence you when you were younger, stop holding so much meaning. They don't really resonate, and they easily drop off because now you're spending more time with yourself to know the difference of, hey, I don't actually really agree with that, because you're spending time alone. I'm trying to think of an example. I feel like maybe a good one for me was I grew up Mormon. There were a lot of things within the religion that influenced how I viewed myself, whether it be with my body or even, my future, and within arenas of marriage and family and kids and all of that. And it wasn't really until I spent more time with myself and just really listening to my thoughts and my inner guidance that I realized I didn't actually agree with a lot of the concepts that I grew up on. And don't get me wrong, like, again, this is no slander to Mormons or the Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ. This is at all, to each their own, because there were some good core values. Like within any religion, there are some good core values with particular things, but there are definitely a lot of things that I had to come to terms with, and it wasn't easy. And I had a hard time being able to express that with, maybe friends and family, and understanding their reasonings for wanting me to stay, and, my reasonings for wanting me to not stay. And things are a lot different now, but at the time, that's where they were and where I was. But as I left that community and Utah in general, and went to New York and met different people and had my ups and downs and learned a lot, and I moved to LA to pursue acting, I found out so much about me, what I'm passionate about, what I care for, what means the most to me. And, to be fair, like, this also isn't the case for everyone, right? And I talked about this either in last week's episode or perhaps the week before, where some folks do grow up in homes where possibly even affirmations were a love language in the home. They were taught at a very young age that they could do and be anything they want. There is no limitation. Even within religion, maybe religion wasn't like a big thing, because religion in itself, no matter where you are, is very structural to how you go about the world and view the world and the things that you partake in and do. And so, perhaps that wasn't the main focus in some of these homes, but affirmations were, right? And just filling this child up with the fact that, you have the ability to stretch yourself towards those things that you really want, and it feels more accessible, it feels more possible, not as challenging, because in a way they're being programmed as well. We're all being programmed, but at a very young age, they're being programmed that nothing is out of reach. And it's not to say that these people never struggle or have faced hardship, because we all do. And I think there's also, it comes to a point in time where you have to be able to tell yourself these things and believe them, not just from someone else's point of view, but from your own. And you have to be able to believe it too without someone else, and that happens on its own time. Of course, your environment is a big influence in how we feel about ourselves and how we behave. For example, a few years back, before I had gotten into meditation, spirituality, self-help, I hung around a very different crowd of people. I partied a lot more. I was a lot more sad. I dated people who weren't great. And I will say this, I think it's because, too, I was so sheltered around the religion that I was in that, it basically backfired, because there's so much that I just wasn't aware of, so much that I didn't understand, whether it be with sex or drinking or whatever, and I just kind of went into this world because it's also like it's not really talked about. It's more so my experience was with religion, specifically being Mormon, was that any conversation you had when it was about sex or drugs, it was all in the name of shame, right? There was nothing like educational that you could really understand or prep yourself or whatever. It was really, for me, my experience was that it was taught to me rooted in this really intense sense of fear. And so when I did leave, I had no idea, truly, and it sounds so silly, but at the time I really didn't have any idea because I was in a certain bubble, that was my friend group. Church at that time, I don't know what it is now, but church at that time was 3 hours long. And then we had seminary, which it basically is Bible study within your in Utah. It's actually implanted into the school schedule because there's so many LDS people here. And, when I lived in Missouri, there wasn't a lot. It was more, I would say maybe Catholic was a lot more popular towards Midwest for sure, in terms of, Utah. And so it wasn't added into the curriculum. So what we would do is go do Bible study essentially before high school started. So we would go there, I think around like 5 a.m. And then you're in Bible study for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And then you go to your school and all your other stuff. And you do that Monday through Friday. And then, there's after church activities like, church dances and summer camps and things like that. So that was my life for years. And that's all I knew. That's all I was taught. And everyone else around me believed the same thing. And so the second I started kind of going, hold on, this doesn't really make sense. This doesn't really resonate. And when I started really asking myself these questions, I had to go out and experience. And I, not to say that these experiences, they were some experiences, let me tell you. And I had to learn like really the hard way because I just didn't know. And, it was a process. And so I just was around a lot of different people, and it took a pretty harsh and sobering experience to get me to wake up out of that and really ask myself the question, okay, who am I? Who is Kiara? Outside of religion, outside your friends, outside your work, who are you when you are alone and nothing else is with you? And I'm really grateful I did, because I can genuinely say I've never been happier. I've never been happier. Oh my gosh, it's giving Euphoria, Sydney Sweeney, Cassie. I'm not gonna quote that. Okay, keep on moving. Here we go. Anyway, I've never been happier. And it's not to say that I don't get down or have my days where I'm low. I definitely do. But I'm able to handle it much better and for the better. And the work still continues. There's things that I'm going through now that are teaching me who I am and who I'm becoming and what I'm looking forward to, so stay really curious and stay open to learning. That's kind of the whole process of this. And here's the thing, right? Self-concept and our beliefs go hand in hand. Self-concept is how we view ourselves based off of our circumstances and our thoughts, and those thoughts turn into beliefs, because a belief is really just a thought that we just keep thinking frequently. And we can use this to our advantage once we see where we are with our self-concept. Because the coin really flips in either direction. It can be empowering or it can be limiting. Again, though, the good news is that we get choice in which one we want to subscribe to. And you want to be able to do this because our beliefs impact our lives, our relationships, our work, and future opportunities. We're not gonna put ourselves out there if we have a limiting belief that I don't know, that you're always gonna be a certain way, or that you only get one certain thing. You know, I feel like a good example for those dating and stuff is that, it might be like, oh, why do I always attract this kind of person? Why do they always end up like so and so and da 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 da? And it wasn't until this even recent breakup that I had my time alone to understand, whoa, okay, I had some major fears of abandonment and rejection from when I was a child, and wanting, other kids at the school to be my friends. And I also moved around a lot when I was younger. So it was difficult even keeping friends and feeling like I met my group of people. And so as I got older, that was one of the things. There's a few other things. But for the sake of time, that ended up manifesting in my relationships. This fear that they could leave whenever, that I need to be a specific kind of person in order to keep someone, or I need to do specific kinds of things to be, when in reality, I was just manifesting the same relationships over and over again because I kept telling myself this story that I'll never really get this, or it's not possible for this. I had that on a subconscious level, and just thinking that out and creating that as my reality. And so I had to figure out, okay, I need to rewrite this story. I need to start a new one, which I have now, which is I only attract people that are full of love and want to grow, that love to support not only me, but themselves, and they take care of themselves. They are everything I could have ever wished or hoped for and more. And communication is incredible. And even in realms of disagreement, we are both heard and we are both patient. And, I've done, and all of this is possible because I've done the work on me and poured all that love into me and continue to. The trick about this is to make the focus on you. And it's selfish, but in not in the connotation in a negative way, right? So you have to be selfish. You have to live life through a lens of yourself with love. Because when you're taking care of yourself and you're putting the energy into yourself and you're not living for anyone else, you're not living to impress, but you're just living for yourself, then you can actually enter relationships, work, anything really, with more certainty, with more confidence, because you're not putting on, you're just being you, and you're having more authentic connections. So now, because I've done all that work, I always know that I am enough, that I don't need any prerequisite for being loved. And this can, like I said, go for work and future opportunities if you have a belief where you don't feel like you're adequate enough to handle a new position at work, which will mean that you'll never even apply for that new position, versus the person who says, yeah, I may not know everything in and out of this new position, but I know I'm capable. I know I'm smart. I know I adapt quickly. I take direction well. I'll be able to sort myself out through the process, and I'll grow exponentially because of it. And then going for that new position or putting yourself up for something isn't looked at through a lens of worry and fear. You now see it as an adventure and something to look forward to, because whichever way it lands, you will have learned something along the way. And that in itself is a win. So you can see how your self-concept can affect your beliefs, which ends up inherently affecting how we go about our lives, and could change our lives in a really big way when we take advantage of knowing this. And like we just found, having a positive self-concept can lead to an overall better outcome, but also an overall better outlook on life. You're not limited by your thoughts, and negative stories. You tell yourself you tell yourself that you can achieve things. You can do things. You're not keeping yourself from enjoying life or doing the things that you really want to do. Also, there's always a plus to pouring love into yourself and uplifting yourself. Like, that's not a bad thing. And that's great. And the sooner you can start doing that, the better. I think that society in general teaches us to question ourselves in ways that make us feel down rather than uplifted, so that we buy into it, whether that be skincare products or makeup products or new clothes. And I should clarify that there's nothing wrong with doing that, buying products and things. But if you're doing it because you feel like you aren't worth or worthy without it, that's when it becomes an issue. So instead of using these things as an expression of instead using these things as an expression of your identity. I love makeup. I love my clothes. I love nice things. Okay, I do. I love a little luxury. Who doesn't, But all of these things are in support of who I am and how I like to live. I use clean beauty products for my face and my hair because as I've gotten older, I found the deep importance of not just taking care of myself on a mental level, but also a physical. And living in the US, we have to really read our labels and ingredients because there's things in our products and in our food that can do more harm than good. And I won't even get into all of that because that's truly a deeper conversation and potentially a good episode for another day. But I'm bringing this up because it's not about me subscribing to, some weird diet culture or whatever else. It's about giving my body a fighting chance to feel healthy and good all the way through, with what I put on it and what I put in it. And even with clothes, when you buy higher quality garments, I'm saying high quality garments, these things last for a long time. And I say high quality garments because just because something's expensive doesn't mean that it's well done or that the quality or the material. And that's why it's actually important. And I've started to look at what material is being used and even where and how it was made. And don't get me wrong, the things I have may be a little pricey on some things and made cheaper on other things. But I also have been able to hold on to these more pricier items and wear them very often because of the quality, right? Anyway, to circle back, okay, folks, to self-concept, when you start nurturing that, you are looking beyond the surface. You go deeper to nurture, and who doesn't want that? I know I do. So how can we reframe these limiting beliefs and flip these perspectives? First things first, you got to identify. You got to pay attention to yourself for just even a couple of minutes, hours, day, whatever. How do you talk to yourself? How do you view yourself? Are you being a bully or are you being a loving friend? And then when you can, write these things down. Please write them down. Y'all, I've been telling y'all to journal since I started this podcast. But write this down, okay? I'm going to tell you why. So you can see what these thoughts are for what they truly are. Get a sense of their weight, how it feels when you write it down. And then you're going to do the healing, which can happen in various different ways. Meditation is great. I like meditation because it's just you and your thoughts and some deep breathing, some good old deep breathing. And it gives you the space to think things through, feel things through, cry things through, laugh things through, smile things through. And during this meditation, you can ask yourself, where did these concepts come from? Where did it start? Why did it start? And allow your body and mind to process through that properly. And I will say this too, I just had the thought. If you don't do meditation, you don't understand, you have a hard time, Start off with guided meditations. Go on YouTube and look up self-concept meditation, love myself meditation, processing meditation. It's YouTube. There are so many meditations. And you'll have someone that will guide you through the meditation so it can help organize your thoughts. And I do this every once in a while just because I've gotten really used to, from meditating so frequently, to being able to guide myself. But even now, I did one like yesterday or 2 days ago where I'm like, I just don't really feel like I have the capacity to be guiding this. I need a little more, I need someone else to do it. And yeah, I just went on YouTube, self-concept meditation. They have like 10-minute ones, 15-minute ones. They even have 3-hour, 8-hour. For when you're asleep, you can play it. So do that if you have a hard time gathering your own thoughts because you're like, I don't really know where to start. It seems intimidating. Do those for long enough that you'll know how to guide yourself alone. Now I'll just put on some kind of meditation music or, calming music and do that. So give yourself love through this and celebrate for finding the source of where these thoughts and beliefs are coming from, knowing that you can change them now. Then, when you get out of your meditation, what are you going to do? Write it down. Everything about what you discovered, what you felt, and just put it on paper. And then, whatever limiting beliefs you have, you're going to come up with I am statements that resonate with you deeply. Start off with 4. That's good. You don't need to do too much the first time. If you want to do more, go for it. You can always increase this whenever and however you want. Now, here's the thing with affirmations I'm going to say, and I think it's important to say. And the whole I am statements, they only work when you really believe them, which means your body has to believe them. Now, you can do 2 things to get there. If the I am statements feels resistant, and you'll know, feels resistant to you, you can switch it out to an I can statement. Okay, this was a good idea for my dad. We were discussing this the other day of like, okay, so what could we do? What could you do? And he goes, you know what? You could start with I can. I can. And you can help ease your mind into that because there's less resistance in the fact that you can work to something. That's universally understood. Since we were kids, we've been aware that if you learn to do something, you can achieve it. You can. That feels more possible when you're maybe a little stuck in the mud. And then eventually you can move into the I am, once your brain and body have accepted that I can. The other really good way is, for example, if your I am statement is, I am beautiful. And if you're having one of those hard days where, yeah, you're saying it, but you don't feel it, go back to a memory where you felt beautiful. Whether that be when you went to prom or an event and you felt amazing, or maybe went to a new place and a stranger came up to you to tell you how beautiful you were, or maybe a memory of a family member who held you and called you beautiful. Just go into that memory. Where were you? What were you wearing? How did you look? How was the day? Was it night? Was it morning? What did it smell like? Where were, all these things. Who were you speaking to? What did their face look like when they spoke to you? What did your face look like? All of these things that can bring you to that moment. This goes even, maybe it's I am smart. Go back to a time where you figured something out on your own. Where were you? What were you doing? How long did it take? How did it feel when you finally figured it out? Take all of that in and just be there for a few breaths. Now, the idea of doing this is when your body senses a memory this deep, it actually starts reliving it in real time. It doesn't know the difference between then and now. It operates off of feeling. That's how our bodies work. So this is why you hear method actors having a hard time shaking a role, because they're they've really convinced themselves on a physical level that whatever events they've convinced themselves so deep, actually, through a mental level, that it's an emotional level as well, that it's manifested in them physically. That whatever events they've played out are in fact very real, and their body has a hard time feeling grounded, afterwards. That's why you hear a lot of people being like, oh, it took me forever to shake it, or it's hard to do this and that. But here's the thing is we can use this to our advantage when it comes to self-concept. So after you've done this, now go into those I am statements, because now those I am statements are charged and it's much more real. And that resistance that you once had won't be there to disrupt that. And, it really is up to us to rewrite our self-concept narratives. Like I mentioned earlier, I got to a point in my life where I just knew there could be better for me, and I had the desire to do more and live differently. And so I changed. I started reading books and watching things and being around people that supported that new vision I saw for myself. Rather than waiting for other people to tell me what and who I am, I took the position in guiding my own life and the direction I wanted to go. And I'm very grateful I did, because here I am doing exactly that and creating work that I love, meeting people I love, and getting to live a much more fulfilled life than before. And the great news is anyone can do this at any time. Anytime. So, folks, it's, oh my gosh, okay, it's a little longer today. To wrap it up, you've got to do the work if you want to see change and want to live a more desired life. You have to police yourself. You have to nurture yourself. There are times where I straight up talk to myself out loud and course correct. If I notice a negative thought happening or a pattern, I rework it right then and there. I take a deep breath and I begin to separate myself from whatever old story is coming up. Of course, I meditate and journal as well, because that helps a ton. But, when you're on the go and you don't have time to just, you're driving or something and it hits you where you're like, ooh, you start telling yourself a story, you don't really have time to pull over and meditate. So I have mantras as well, and other affirmations that I repeat through the day that help me let go and be present with myself. We're doing a lot of deprogramming, people, and that's something that takes time. If you grew up only thinking one thing, one way for, who knows, 20 plus, 30 plus, whatever years, it might be, you're going to need a bit of time before your brain believes this new story you're telling it. Which is why all these techniques of the I can and the sensory memories and the I am and the journal and the writing help expedite this change. And sticking with it is very important, because that consistency is really your friend in this thing. As we take it all the way back to the top, that a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking or that you keep telling yourself. That's all a belief is. So the more consistent, the less foreign it feels to your mind and body. Now, as we conclude this episode, remember that your self-concept is a work in progress, ever evolving, just like you. So don't get down on yourself if maybe within 24 hours you had this really great day and you did all this stuff, and then 24 hours, oh, I already had a negative thought pop up. It doesn't even work. That's expected, and it's okay. Keep going. Please keep going. Okay. The theory of the week is your self-concept is the canvas of your life. Paint it with the colors of confidence, self-love, and authenticity. Truly, folks, the power to shape your self-concept and create the life you desire is within your grasp. It's within all of us. You just have to reach out. You got to reach out for it. Thank you for joining us on Talk Theory today. Be sure to subscribe so that you won't miss any episodes. Every Monday we have new episodes. share this with friends and family. Whoever you feel could really use hearing this episode, definitely do that. And thanks again for listening. I shall see you next week. Okay, I love you. Bye.